Hello guys, introduce yourself.
My name is Sam, I'm a YouTuber, I live in Japan, I do drifting, car stuff, and that's about it.
And I'm Aaron from the Lone Star Drift channel, since you're already here. He has been living in Japan for quite some time. He's gonna tell you about what Japan is like after 3 years of lockdown with drifting, what's changed, if there's any style changes, if there's any track changes, what it's like to drift the new Ebisu stuff, if he's done that. Mm-hmm. Have you done that?
Yeah. What's the bank's wild. It's sketchy though. Mm-hmm. If you got a low power car, you can't like ride the wall, can't get all the way up there. But the lower power stuff, you can just kind of like hit like the middle of it. It's still really fun. It's a hard layout though. Like you got to go full ball. Mm-hmm. It's actually like super fun in tandems and like trains and stuff. Sketchy still. But yeah, I mean like with COVID and stuff, not really, I would say much has changed in the drifting world. I would say that like everything's kind of well the same there, except that you're seeing a lot more Zs and a lot more like Skylines, you know, the V35, the Infinities and stuff like that. A lot more of those coming out just because they're cheaper and you know, everything else has skyrocketed in price. Chases now are like, since COVID, yeah, before COVID, Chases were still affordable over there, like 6, 7, 8 grand. Now they're 20 grand, 30 grand. So everyone's just defaulting to Zs and stuff. And I think, that kind of aspect of, I guess, drifting has kind of changed a little bit, but you still got all the S chassis and stuff, just people who already had the cars, you know. Mm-hmm. Practice stuff is just getting, you know, more turned into like cheap stuff, like the Fugas too, you know, the Nissan V8, like kind of V35 Skyline chassis kind of weird thing.
I saw Robbie Nishida driving one.
Yeah. I mean, they'll even keep it auto trans and just left foot brake it and just disconnect all the electronics. They're pretty solid. There's a guy who did a Prius swap on the front one of one, and he was jumping Minami before they turned it into a rally track. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that changed during COVID was Minami is now a rally course. It's hard to know exactly what the future plans are for it. We believe that it will be coming back to a drift course sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. The way that Kumakuba-san has done it is he's just graded off the first like 3 or 4 layers and left that base layer there of the bitumen, and then there's just like gravel and dirt just on top of that loosely. So every now and then they like kind of apply it back on top, but the track, I guess, original track is still under there. If that makes sense. So at some point when maybe the rally like has kind of died down and the sponsors don't want to pay for it anymore, because that was all the big business move for him. Right? They paid a bunch of money and gave him a whole bunch of you know, incentive to turn that into a rally track. And of course, with the earthquake and all the damage and all the repairs and rebuilding he wanted to do, that was a no-brainer. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes back as a drift course in the next 5 to 10 years. I believe it will.
That'd be nice. As a drifter that's been going there for a long time, it's such a pilgrimage to go and it takes so long to get there that losing that track means we're basically just on, if it's not a Matsuri, all we can drive is Toge, School Course, and North Course. And
no, Nishi's open on normal days now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can, depending if it gets rented out. So normally it doesn't get rented out that often. I know at the moment there's like a driver training course they do on Mondays or Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, every other day of the week, it's open. So you can do Nishi Short and you can do the bank on normal weekdays now.
That's totally different.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, so yeah, we lost Minami, but we gained the bank and Nishi Short. Okay. And then depending who's there and the staff and how busy it is, they may let you set up Nishi Long. You just got to talk to them.
Okay.
But yeah.
How about back to the VQ stuff? How many people really drive those cars there? Is it just a few new ones that you're seeing scattered about, or are they really popular now?
No, I think like so many people have gotten just seat time Zs now.
That's crazy.
I got one. Robbie Nishida's got the Fuga. Shinji Minoa has a 350Z. He had a couple. He's gone through like 3 now and sold a couple and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the Sidex guys have a fleet of 6 now. Mm-hmm. Kumakuba-san and Suinaga have one each now. Like it's kind of starting. It's like, you know, when the Zs just became like the new like meta drift car over here for seat time, that's kind of just happening now in Japan.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And are there enough of them over there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They are a lot more expensive than what you would see them for over here, just because mainly Japan got more of like the special like track edition, Nismo edition ones. Mm-hmm. So they tend to sell a little bit more, but you can get an automatic one for like 5 Gs. Mm-hmm. And then you just switch in a CD09 trans, which you can get, you know, for like, I think they're still like $1,200 from Nissan direct. So as long as you get that and some other used parts, you can just slap together.
And how do those cars drive up at Ebisu on North Course and stuff compared to a JZX?
Fine. I mean, they just drive more like an air chassis, you know. If you set them up right, they flick way harder, you know, faster on transitions. You know what it's like driving a Chaser, the 4 doors, a little nice and slow and calm. But yeah, you just run the 235s like normal on the rear and everything feels great.
All right. So how about that's a few aspects of Japanese drifting and stuff that have changed. What else is going on there? Anything else new and hot?
A lot of the tourist places that I would say a lot of you guys know and love are no more. Like they all just went bankrupt and closed down. No one was visiting. There was no tourism for 3 years. Japanese people were even scared to go out. The government shut down everything. So, you know, even family restaurants weren't allowed to be open past like 6:30, 7 p.m. It was wild.
That's crazy.
And yeah, everything just, a lot of places went under. Like, you know, like the robot cafe place, the robot like performance one, like all those things that everyone would go to on like their top like 10 best things to do in Japan, most of them are gone.
Wow.
Even Ginza 6, the huge shopping mall that was in the middle of Ginza with all like the, you know, crazy hype brands and stuff like that, closed down, went bankrupt. The whole mall? Yeah.
It was like 6 stories, right?
Yeah.
That one?
And like a lot of the restaurants around Ebisu Circuit, Mama Pasta, gone. Round 1 is still there, but like even like the yakiniku and the izakaya place that everyone would go to, the red one, all gone.
Oh, red joint place?
Yeah, all gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did they replace it with anything, or it's just empty?
No, there are some other restaurants
nuts.
we've like found, like new ones that are starting to pop up now, but yeah, all those places that we used to go to on the regular are gone now.
How about the big tuning shops and stuff, and like the big companies?
Yeah. Some tuning
HKS
shops,
and all those places
HKS
survive?
is doing fine. They survived. The big places have. A lot of the smaller ones, a few of them did close down, but we are seeing them starting to come back now.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like, it's kind of crazy, but literally everything stopped for 3 years, and yeah, these guys struggled.
How was the last Matsuri there at Ebisu?
The last one, actually, the biggest one I've seen in the last 3 years, just
Really?
because the borders had opened. So,
Oh, well, in the last 3 years, yes, but like, was it previous numbers?
I would say a little shy, but definitely like big.
Okay.
Nothing like you know, the last time we were there together. That was probably the last like decent sized one I've seen in a while. But that's just because right after that COVID hit, we were seeing Matsuris and you probably count like 50, 60, 70 people with that. That was it. So it was so dead during COVID. But yeah, once the borders opened, there was like a 2-week period since the borders opened and like Matsuri started. We see a huge influx of foreigners, which was super cool.
Okay. What's the general consensus on like the raising of the prices of all their chassis and cars?
The general consensus is just like Americans want them and they're all going to America. The locals are pretty like, you know, you've got two ends of the scale. You got guys that are upset about Americans taking all the Japanese cars, you know, their pride cars out of the country, and then you've got the people that are like, I don't care, I'm making money. You know what I mean? So there's always that, but the drifters hate it. You know, the guys who want parts for cheap and all that kind of stuff because they're always burning through them. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same everywhere.
Maybe, yeah. America still has a big like plethora of cars to choose from.
I mean, you guys have like the best seat time cars ever because throw like a junkyard LS and anything, like, and you can get parts for those from any parts store around the corner. Like, that's what I wish we had in Japan. I mean, we definitely can get parts for like SRs and RBs a lot easier than you guys, but not as easy as you guys with LSs. Like, I feel like you could go to just anywhere and get like a $60 alternator and you're good to go, you know. But in Japan, it's
it is kind of like that
3, 4, 5 day, maybe a week-long process before you get stuff. Normally, no one holds on stock. Even when you go to Nissan, you got to wait till like, you know, their part order comes in at like 6 p.m. if they have it at their other location. And
Oh, so SR parts aren't really that plentiful to get?
Not anymore. They were a while ago, but now Nissan stopped making blocks, and they did their last order for just the bare blocks themselves. They stopped doing short blocks.
For SRs?
Yeah, for SRs.
I didn't even know that you could get those before.
Yeah, you used to be able to buy a full complete engine from Nissan, and I think just before COVID they stopped doing the complete long engine, and then they were just doing the short engine for a while, and then a year after that they stopped the short engine and they did one final order, like back order, for the bare block. You can still get all the parts individually. And there's been a few like weird scams popping up of people saying like, oh, these are the last batch of like, we're doing a batch of 30 of like Nissan full complete long motors, SRs and stuff, but that's just not true. They only have the bare blocks and they're just assembling them themselves and selling them for 30 grand a pop.
Oh, interesting.
It's wild. Yeah, there's been a few because they're taking advantage of Americans and, you know, foreigners wanting to buy those complete engines and things like that for their super clean S chassis.
Did any tracks close down and go bankrupt during COVID?
Actually, I don't think so. I didn't see
They all
anything.
survived?
There was that one where, before COVID, where a monk was complaining about the noise and closed it down. But that was a small one down south. I can't remember the name right now, but there was just that one. That's it. I don't think any other tracks were closed down.
Okay.
I mean, other than Minami turning into a rally course.
And how about, like, did you go to any Formula D rounds this year?
Yeah. So I drove an FDJ2.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really see that many, like, people come in for that round, but J1 was plentiful. A lot of Japanese people and crowds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. For the Formula D stuff over there, how many spectators would you say there were there? And how many drivers?
Depends on the round, really. So for Formula D, I think J1, I want to say there was around like 70 plus drivers. It was pretty big. And I think the biggest round I saw was spectators was Fuji, and I think they had over like 1,500.
Okay.
Which is pretty big for in the middle of COVID with, like, you know.
And during the small stuff, how many spectators and drivers would they have?
So J2, which is like equivalent to your Pro Spec, we'd probably see about 500 spectators at those. And it's just such a smaller event than, you know, J1,
Yeah.
the Pro Series. And then drivers, we'd still have 70 drivers, 60 drivers, depending on the round and how far away it was from, like, Tokyo. Sometimes you'd get lucky and there'd only be like 40 drivers because they just didn't want to make the trip.
And how about D1? Have you been to any of that stuff?
Yeah.
How big are those events now?
Pretty small, like dying. Yeah.
Really?
Like they definitely still pulling like all the OG like fans in Japan, like the Japanese guys. But obviously without that foreigner kind of tourism aspect, the crowds were quite a lot less than what they normally are.
Really?
The most recent one at Ebisu was pretty good because of the new bank and everything. That drummed up a bit of hype. So a lot of Japanese people were there and some foreigners were there because the borders were open. So that was probably the biggest crowd they had all year.
Okay. And how many people were there for that?
I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell.
Like 1,000 or 10,000 or?
I don't think. I would say it would be a couple thousand.
Okay.
That's about it.
That's interesting about how small all that stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, live streams and stuff like that, and also people are still, especially within Japan, they're still really cautious about COVID. You know, right now the government has been spending money on marketing to tell people, hey, it's okay to take your mask off outside and stuff like that, you know? And generally you only need a mask now if, like, it's a privately owned building and, like, if the owner says, hey, we want you to wear a mask. But that is so rare right now. So, like, they're trying to push people, hey, you don't need to wear a mask unless you're actually sick now. But yeah, people are kind of a little against it. So, like, if you guys go over there, you're going to find that if you're not wearing a mask, you're going to get death stares everywhere. But it's okay to not wear one.
What do you think the next, like, 2 to 3 years has in store for Japanese drifting?
I think they're really starting to focus now on what's happening in the USA with Formula Drift. I've been hearing a lot of conversations on the back end, behind scenes. They really want to try and replicate the whole NASCAR Formula Drift style of things, because what they're doing now with, like, D1 and FDJ, it's just not enough. They want to be able to make it more profitable, make it more viable, get more sponsors on board, and the only way that they see that that's going to happen is if they follow suit with a lot of the American style of events and stuff like that.
What does an American style event mean?
I think just more catered to the audience. The driving itself can probably stay the same, but I think there needs to be better communication on how the judging's sorted out, and then also, you know, food, other things happening at the event to entertain the guests, more like merch and all that kind of stuff, you know, like everything that you would see Formula D do over here, but more in like a Japanese kind of way of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because it hasn't really happened that much before.
I thought they used to do a pretty good job with, like, doing weird stuff, like bringing out little K-vans that, like, would tip and, you know, do all kinds of wacky stuff. But maybe that's just we don't see too much of it from outsiders of what's going on. And, like, I don't know. I've only been to the Diver Mall, Odaiba.
Those ones were always good, hey. The
Okay.
Diver Malls were always really good. Like, I felt like they had way more vendors there, and they had so much other stuff, like side shows going on. Not only on, like, the main track, but also on, like where all the vendor booths are and things like that. You know, like when you go to a drift event here, you got, like, Taxi Garage there, and everyone can try out karts, and then you got this other thing set up there, and then you've got some magazine or, you know, guys set up there, and you got YouTubers set up that you can do meet and greets with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just bringing all of that in the one place is what you really want.
Do you think D1 will be able to transition like that?
I think they will, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the biggest struggle in Japan and talking with any company over there is they're all old school. So they don't understand like marketing for younger generations. Something that's really interesting is I've been working with a lot of companies, like old tuna companies, you know, Grady HKS and things like that. And all of their customer bases are 45 and up. They have no bracket for the younger generation. Anywhere in the 20s to 30s, that's just not who their customers are. And because of that gap there, it shows that their old way of doing things in marketing within Japan, and also how the hierarchy works in the workforce, you've got senpai and kohai, right? So the younger people can't have any ideas to give to the older person just because of that whole structure. So what was happening is these older guys would do things of how they learned, but that's like 2 generations old. So it was leaving behind and started leaving this huge gap, and they just don't have these customers anymore.
Interesting.
So they're trying to fill that now, and it's not just like tuna companies doing that, but events and all these companies that are, you know, trying to push this motorsport or anything else in Japan. They're now starting to focus on this and what they need to do that, which means, you know, unfortunately influencers, I hate that word, but influencers and content creators, TikTok, like all that kind of stuff, that's the new way to market.
Oh man, you say TikTok and I feel old. I still don't have a TikTok account.
It's all right, man. I don't really have one either, but you know.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with us and update me. I can't wait to get back to Ebisu and get over to Japan.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I haven't been there in 3 years, and I have 2 cars and paying storage fees.
Your car's up like full of like mushrooms and mold and stuff like that.
I'm sure they are. God.
Bring a mask.
When was the last time you were over there at Ebisu?
Like 2 weeks before I flew here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it snowing yet?
Now it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's packed.
And they don't have the Matsuri dates open, do they? For 2023?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay. Well, as soon as those dates are up, I'm going to take the fleet of Lone Star Drift guys that won the prizes and all that stuff, and we're going to go over and drive my cars and go take a big group of people over there. So we'll have content from that. Thank you so much.
No worries.
We get to compete against each other. He's driving a 350Z, and I brought the Circle Track car. Who's going to win this whole event?
Oh, dude, there's so many good drivers now.
I know.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think that, like, I don't even, like, I could probably pick 5 or 10 people that have a chance in my mind.
Do the Japanese watch this kind of stuff at all? Or no, they're
Some
not
of the young
aware
kids
of it?
will, yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, go prep your car, which probably needs no prep because it's a 350Z.
Exactly.
Oh, he's now driving a JDM car here since it's a 350Z. I love it. And a reminder, Naoki Nakamura will be at Drift Week 7, and we're going to have some public dates so you can come hang out, meet and greet with him, ride in his drift car if you'd like. That's February 18th and 19th at Musselman Honda Circuit in Arizona, and February 25th and 26th at Adams Motorsport Park over in California. So if you're a huge fan of him, come on out, see him in person. That's it, guys.